Hello, how are you? Seán Ferrick here for Whatculture, and I'm coming at you with the third episode of our ups and downs for the Rings of Power. Now, if you've watched Up and Downs before, you know how this is going to go. We're going to go through everything that we like and give it an up, and everything that we didn't like, and we're going to give it a down. Without much further ado, let's get to it. Here are all of the ups and downs for the Lord of the Rings, the Rings of Power, Season 1, Episode 3, Adar. We are going to kick straight off this week with an up. It is revealed that, of course, last week Arondir was captured by the orcs, and this week picks up basically straight away from there. It shows him being put in chains, he's being dragged through these tunnels that are being carved in the earth, and the reason I'm giving it an up is that it shows that he is not the only elf to have been captured. Now, my issue last week was that Arondir, this wonderful ranger, and he's a hunter and everything, was captured seemingly quite easily. I stand by that down, but it does, this is going to sound so evil, it warms my heart a little bit to know that he's not the only elf that got captured. And possibly it's because the elves have this reputation for, nah, y'all ain't gonna catch me. Y'all ain't gonna catch me. And no, they did. So you have Maedor and you have Revian are both in chains as well. And of course, we've met them previously. They were his fellow watchers, rangers, elves that were serving with him. So I'm not delighted to see them in chains. I am happy to see that Arondir was not this terrible ranger who got picked up surprisingly willy-nilly. We're going to get back to Arondir because a lot of that story comes toward the end of the episode. No, in fact, my next up of the episode is the absolutely glorious appearance, finally, of Numenor. This is stunningly realised. You can see straight away how they honoured both Alan Lee and John Howe's inspirations for Gondor and Osgiliath and Minas Tirith in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and you can see it's all here in Numenor. You have the great statues, you have the great domed buildings, you have the flame of the west, which is there. Oh, it is absolutely, it's gorgeous. I have to say, it's gorgeous. In fact, right, I have to make a quick update to this series. Last week, I said that the things that were really, really good were going to get the One Ring. Now, my little inner Gollum was coming out there because like, oh, the One Ring is the best, precious. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. No, it's not. No, because it leaves you sounding like that. So in fact, we will not be doing the One Ring for our biggest up of the episode. In fact, I will be taking the suggestions that came from the comments. We will be giving Numenor our Mithril up of the episode. It's beautiful. It is exactly what I wanted Numenor to be ever since we saw the White Tower in Minas Tirith. This is, you can see how one becomes the other. It is, I have to say now, it's massive appreciation and up. I love it from the moment we see, first of all, we see the boat, which of course was, we all kind of knew it was Numenor when we saw the boat last week, but the actual reveal, the slow reveal, and you know what I like as well, is that when character who turns out to be Elendil, we'll come back to him, you know, he's asked, where are we going? And he says, home. Lesser scripts would have been like, oh, we're going home. 3 days later, they would arrive in Numenor. Like, home is right here. I did like that. You know, we didn't have to have this big, slow kind of like, well, why didn't you just say Numenor then? It worked. It very much worked for me. I kind of had feelings, do you know what it reminded me of a little bit? Is the helicopter arriving at Jurassic Park. Anybody else get that feeling? On this, again, I'm lavishing praise on this bit, Bear McCreary, who I will shake that man's hand and buy him a drink if I ever get to meet him in real life, because all of his scores are fantastic, right? And I know that's a very big sweeping statement, but I am a big fan of his style of music, but I really like the music he's done for Numenor here. This theme, it's grand. It doesn't have the same, it's quite different from the Gondor theme because it's slower, it's more reflective. Gondor had that urgency, it had that, you know, kind of, oh, holy crap, the Nazgul are right there. You know, there was that kind of a feeling to it. Whereas Numenor was like, we are kind of deadly, we're all kind of epic. Seriously strong effort here. Really I mean, just the combination of the physical design of Numenor, all of the Numenorians themselves, and the music makes Numenor obviously the standout bit. That's what I think people will take away from this episode. To the Downs. So, when we get there, Galadriel and Halbrand are brought before the Queen Regent, and, you know, the Queen Regent's not exactly like, oh, hey friends, come on in, it's so happy to see you. No, they're like, haha, sup with the elf? Because it transpires that the elves are no longer welcome in Numenor. So having Galadriel standing there is very much a sign of like, Elendil, did you misunderstand the assignment? She's being carted away. Elendil has her brother's knife because naturally they disarmed them when they took them prisoner, which leads to a very silly scene of Halbrand gives Elendil a hug in the middle of the chamber where everyone is watching, and then turns around and says, thanks, brah, and hands the knife to Galadriel. Now, it's not framed in such a way that the Numenorian guards wanted Galadriel to have the knife. It's framed in such a way like, haha, Halbrand is such a good pickpocket. He's not, though. Like, everyone saw it happen. So that, for me, that was a down this week. It does set up, of course, that later in the episode, Halbrand is he wants to get into the forging guild, and he's told, look, he needs to have a special badge. He needs to be qualified to do it. So in his logic, he thinks, I know, I'll steal the badge, and that'll be fine then, you know, as long as I have the badge, not thinking that anyone would go like, oh, did you do your 7 years in badge school? Mm-hmm. I was kind of teetering on downing this, except then we get the scene where he is at least confronted about it. And I do like the fact that the Smith goes, did you really think I wouldn't notice? Because I was like, yeah, we're all right there with you. He gives them fair warning. He says, let's not do this. He does try and leave first. They're having none of it. And he beats the absolute tar out of them. And there is a horrific scene where he takes, you know, the one guy's hand and he puts it against the wall and he keeps pushing. And oh, God. My neighbors downstairs heard me go, ah, Jesus. And like, they're kind of like, what is going on up there? And it was rough. This is quite a brutal episode in parts. I'm not upping this scene, but I do think this is a good scene for giving us more of Halbrand's character. Skipping forward a bit, Halbrand is in jail at the end, and Galadriel, who has at least won the trust of Elendil, comes up and is just like, what are you at? What are you at? But then she also reveals, by the way, I know who you are. Or at least vaguely I know who you are. He is being set up to be something like an Aragorn character. He is a king that doesn't want the crown. He needs to unite the races of men. So yes, what do we think of straight away? We think of Viggo Mortensen's Aragorn. We're like, oh great, this is going to be like a precursor to a lesser. But actually, I don't think so. I think that's going to be a little bit too obvious. What I think, I have discussed this with my great friends. We have a theory that he's one of the 9. So the 9 kings of mortal men that were given rings by Sauron were corrupted by their will for power. Now, only 2 of the 9 ever really got named. There's the Witch King of Angmar, who we know from the Lord of the Rings trilogy. That's the one that faces off against Éowyn. And then there's also Cúmail, who was named in Tolkien's Unfinished Tales, and he was an Easterling. Neither of them particularly fit the bill for Halbrand here, who is very much a Southern. That leaves 7 more who haven't been revealed yet. We know that they're all kings, and at this moment, there doesn't seem to be any kings of men in Middle-earth. Unfortunately, I don't think we are looking for a heroic future with Halbrand. Now, back quickly to Arondir and his imprisoning. There is a very tense scene where Revian refuses to chop down a tree because, you know, elves' life, I get it. And so there's a very tense scene where he's forced to drink water. And we're all thinking, this is poisoned. Don't do it, buddy. Don't do it. This is poisoned. And he takes a drink and he's, oh, it's fine. And he hands it to Arondir, and Arondir takes a drink and, oh, it's fine. And they hand it to Maedor, and then Maedor, that was a hell of a bait and switch. He lets his head back to take a drink and just, the orc captain just slits his throat. To say that I was shocked. Oh no, I something was going to happen. It was too tense, but I didn't see that coming. That was a well done switch. Almost forgot, really funny scene as Galadriel is sort of hopping through Numenor before she becomes friends with Elendil. The guards are running after going, who's going to inform the captain that she's escaped? I informed him last time. Up. Love it. Absolutely love it. I do like her relationship with Elendil, that you can see already there's trust there. And of course they figure out now that the sigil of Sauron isn't a sigil, it's a map. And I felt like a bloody idiot because I was looking at this map of the Southlands. I mean, it's obviously Mordor. And I was like, no, Mordor's somewhere else. This is the Southland. Don't worry about it. Tom laughed at me, and rightly so. I have a down. The Harfoots. I don't dislike the Harfoots themselves. I do like the characters. I like the actors. They're fun. They're, they're that kind of, we're going away from the seriousness. And Lenny Henry, I'm loving him. I'm loving him. However, the old Irish accents got a little bit much this week. I'm consigning every one of the accents that were spoken in this week to the cracks of doom. I want to be kind. Irish is a difficult accent to get right. I should know. I speak in one. They were just, all of them were all over the place. Even Nori, who last week was quite good, I thought, was just all over the place this week. It was like they couldn't decide if they wanted to be Irish or West Country, and so they mashed them together, and it's not working. I'm giving it to the cracks of doom now because I think we're only on episode 3. We're going to get the rest of the season like this as well, and there's not an awful lot we can do about it at this point. So yeah, I'm sorry now, but all of the Irish accents really annoyed me this week. Now, I do have an up Lenny Henry's line where they're, reviewing all of the Harfoots who have fallen behind, which is an incredibly cruel way. Anyway, I'll get to it. But they're reviewing them all, and they get to the one where he's like, death by bees, Egypt. I'm giving it an up, not because of the cruelty of laughing at it, but because this is obviously said with affection and love. That Seán the Silly was a bit of a twat, but, we still love him. And I actually really like that. They didn't have to include a line like that, but they did. And I appreciate that. I do think it's incredibly cruel that those who fall behind stay behind in the old Harfoots way. Like, for example, the Brandyfoots are effectively condemned to exile by degrees by being pushed to the back of the caravan. Bit mean. The stranger, I am hearing the people who are saying it's not Sauron. I hear it. I'm keeping an open mind. The stranger is revealed to the rest of the Harfoots. They're like, yeah, nah. So he is banished, which means basically he's pushing the back of the cart for the Brandyfoots. He's definitely being set up to look like one of the wizards. I will absolutely give that. I mean, now he's wearing the big kind, well, when he was wearing, the kind of netting over him, you're kind of like, I'm getting strong Gandalf Radagast vibes off this. So we'll have to see where it goes. I am very open-minded, might not be Sauron the slightly clothed. If it isn't, I guess, good for the Harfoots. So we'll see. I have a down, which is the CGI on the warg. Now, the reason I'm being harsh there is because you can see dollars dripping off every second of this show, and it looks great. The warg now, sorry, it didn't look great. But what was good, and I'm giving a massive up to, is how brutal that last scene was. I mean, that warg, despite how it looked, that warg was frightening. I mean, you understand why a warg is bad news, because a lot of the time in, say, the Lord of the Rings, the wargs, sure, poor Hammer got at. Were they really that bad? You know what I mean? Whereas this one is that bad. This one is eviscerating elves. No thank you. They do manage to trap it, or Arondir manages to trap it, which allows Revian to climb the banks, get out of there, and this absolutely crushing ending that he's shot by arrows from other orcs. This episode alone gives the orcs a lot more menace than they've had before, because with any large CGI army, and I'm being very kind here, you have that inevitable feeling of fodder. You'll just kill 20,000 on the right and then it'll be... You don't get that here. You're like, oh no, these orcs are actually quite difficult to kill. Like, I get why these are a threat. So Revian, him getting shot by arrows, that was like, oh God, that was as much a gut punch as he felt. And then of course the last scene of the episode calls for Adar to come forward. Adar, who is clearly being set up to be at least a Sauron stand-in. We have theories about that maybe he is one of the first elves who was converted into an orc, something like a chief lieutenant. We will have to see where it goes. Now that's everything for our episode today, folks. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you so much to everyone who is showing so much, faith and warmth toward this series. We really appreciate it. Brand spanking new series, so thank you so much for your support. You can catch us over on Twitter at Whatculture. You can catch myself at Seán Ferrick and all the various as well. Look after yourself until I see you again. Let's see where this goes. Our friends in Ukraine, stay strong. We wish you all of the luck and the love. Everyone, thanks so much. Have a wonderful weekend. and make it so.